Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. For those of you who are new, welcome. My name is Rachel and I make new videos every week on a bunch of different things like fashion, my weight loss journey. So for today's video, I thought it would be pretty interesting if I talk about what it's like to live in the city. And for those of you who don't know, I'm currently living in Boston, Massachusetts. So just to preference this video, I've been living in Boston for almost a year now, which is crazy to think about. I feel like it's gone by really fast. Before I moved to Boston, I had been in Rhode Island for my entire life. So up until I was 24 years old, I lived in Rhode Island with my parents. I lived outside of my parents' house when I went to college, but then for grad school, I moved back in with my parents just because the grad school I went to was like a commuter college, and my boyfriend lived in Connecticut for most of his life. He ended up moving out to Massachusetts a couple years ago while I was still in Rhode Island because, like I said, we'd been long distance for like 5 years by that point. And we had developed this plan where I was gonna move out to Massachusetts and we were gonna live together. And we had come up with this plan while I was still doing my internship in Rhode Island. I was in my last year of grad school. So we had planned this for like a year. And luckily I was able to get a job here. It was kind of difficult at first, and then we found an apartment last minute, like the first week of August, and then we moved in together the last week of August of 2019. So yeah, I've been here for almost a year. So I thought this video would be interesting to film just so I can share like what it's like to go from living in a suburban area to the city, both the good and the bad. So I'm going to be sharing 3 positives and 3 negatives about living here. There are some things that I really like about the city that are really different, and there are other things about living here that I just do not like. So I thought, why not? I'll just make a video on it for anybody who's interested, if you're also going to be moving from like the suburbs to the city, or if you're even going to be moving to Boston. And I think I'm gonna end this video by sharing a little apartment tour just to show you guys what it looks like to live in a 1-bedroom apartment in Boston. And I will be sharing how much we pay for it too. So without further ado, let's get started. And I forgot to mention this too before I start, but we live in like a suburb of Boston called Allston. So technically, like, our city is Allston, but it's in Boston. So I just wanted to reference that too. Because when we were looking at apartments, like we were looking kind of just all over the area where my boyfriend works. Cause right now he works at Harvard and he bikes to work because there's like no parking at Harvard. So that was one thing that was really hard too. Like when we were looking for an apartment last minute in the summer, we had to make sure that it was close enough towards Harvard where he could easily bike to work. So Allston was a great location because it's only like a mile and a half from Harvard. So we got pretty lucky with this location, but a lot of people told me that Allston is like a party city because it's close to Boston University. So there's a lot of college kids, but with quarantine and COVID, like they all moved away. So it actually got really quiet, but we live in an apartment complex where there's mostly like people our age, like couples our age that live here, or even families. So we don't really live right next to college kids. So the first thing that I really like about living in the city and where we're at is that lots of things are walking distance, which I was not used to in Rhode Island. Like, you know, where I lived in Rhode Island, you always had to drive to wherever you wanted to go. As my friends would call it, we were like living in the boonies. So it was just a lot of back roads to get to my house in Rhode Island. So nothing was like super close by. So it's so different here because we have like a couple of our favorite restaurants that we just walk to. Like it's a 5 to 10 minute walk. And we have CVS that's walking distance. Oh, we have Starbucks that's walking distance. I love Starbucks, but they've taken all my money because we live so close. But yeah, I mean, that's the convenient thing. Like there are some things that are just so easy to get to. Like the market is less than a mile from us. Like we have Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, Stop and Shop. They're all within a mile from us. So those we have to drive to, but like, it's just crazy how there's so many things that are right around our area. So I really like that about Boston. But the first thing I don't like about living here is that, you know, city life is a lot dirtier, and I kind of expected that. You know, like I visited like New York City before, and sometimes just walking out on the city streets, like it just would stink when I was like in New York, just for like vacations. And I kind of expected that here too. And yeah, I mean, sometimes when we've been on walks, we see like a dead mouse here and there. At the back of our apartment complex, we have 2 dumpsters and a bunch of like recycle bins, and we always see rats over there. Like you could see like there's rat holes in the grass, like they are near where I park. It does creep me out, honestly. And this is really disgusting, and it shocked me. I think this was like December when we were living here, and mind you, the structure of our building is old. Like this building was probably built years ago, like probably a couple decades ago, like a few decades ago. And the structure is just like really poor. Like when we moved in, there were like a couple of holes in the corner of where we live, just like huge gaping holes like in the corner near the heater. So I'm like, what the heck, like who designed this? So I remember I was at work and my boyfriend texted me and said there was a mouse in our apartment. And I literally was shook the entire day because, you know, living in the suburbs, you don't encounter mice coming into your house unless your house is disgusting, maybe. But in apartments in Boston, it's apparently very common. I told my coworkers and they were like, yeah, that happened to me when I lived here in an apartment. So that was disgusting. We had to have the exterminator come twice to block off all the holes in our apartment. And like, we keep our apartment clean. I am a clean freak. It wasn't, and even the exterminator said, you can keep the apartment as clean as you want, but in the winter time, they'll find a way in, no matter what your apartment is like. So luckily we got all those patched up, and I haven't seen one since, but that is disgusting. The next thing that I really like about living in Boston is that there's always things going on. Like, you know, it's a very lively city. So again, before like quarantine and all that, there was always events going on. Like there were food truck festivals, beer festivals, you know, there's a bunch of like things to do. You know, we went to the TD Garden to go see like one of my favorite comedians for my birthday. So there's always like something going on. I always used to like look up things to do in Boston this weekend, and there's like at least 10 options. That's one thing I really liked, because, you know, after living in Rhode Island all my life, it would always become kind of routine, same things going on, and I just got bored with it. It was nice living in a completely different city and state, and there was always just something to do over the weekend. You know, we would either go to a new restaurant on the North End if we were like gonna be fancy and dine out, or we would go to a food truck festival or a little comedy show. And again, this was like before quarantine. Right now I've been kind of taking it easy with that stuff, but that is one thing I really liked about the city, is like how lively it is. The second thing I don't like about living in the city is obviously the cost. It's funny because my sister and her boyfriend live in Rhode Island, and they live in a 1-bedroom apartment too. It's probably as big as ours, and they pay like $600 less than us for their apartment. And mind you, their apartment complex is so much nicer. You could tell like the structure of the building is super nice. I think it was only developed like not too long ago, probably like a decade ago compared to this one. They have a washer and dryer in their apartment, which is hard to find here in our price range. The cost of living here is, it was kind of a surprise to me. Like I knew it was going to be more expensive to live in Boston. I just wasn't sure how much more expensive. And you know, even though the cost of living sucks, I do get paid much more here than what I would get paid living in Rhode Island as a school psychologist. For those of you who don't know, like school psychologists, we mostly make what teachers make typically. Like you're on the same salary level as a teacher. So in Rhode Island, I'd be starting out like probably in the 40s, like mid 40s maybe, which is really low. but in Massachusetts, I'm starting in like the 60s. That's pretty good for like my very first time working like a real full-time job. So I am making more money here significantly than what I'd make in Rhode Island. So it does make sense, I guess, that, you know, the cost of living's higher if everything else is higher here. But we pay for our apartment, we pay $1,900 a month right now to live here. And it's funny because like when I tell my friends from Rhode Island that, they're shocked. And it's just funny because, you know, now that I've been here for a while and my boyfriend and I, we just renewed our lease to live here again for a whole year. Just because like with Corona and stuff, like a lot of places we're not doing real tours, and I don't trust looking at a place online and then signing a lease for it. Like I need to go in and see it. It just sucks because all of the nice apartments that pretty much look like my sister's apartment and her boyfriend's, they're like $3,000 a month, like, or more, $3,000 to $3,500. Because I looked up an apartment that's like a mile from us and it's attached to the Trader Joe's we go to. It's literally like $3,400 a month for a 1-bedroom apartment. So I don't know. I don't know what people do for work here. I can't be wasting, you know, my boyfriend and I split the rent, but like that's still so much to pay in rent. And I feel like we're already paying a decent amount, but it's just funny because yeah, if you want like a really nice apartment here, you gotta pay at least $3,000 a month for a 1-bedroom, or even a studio. They charge that much, which is ridiculous. So the cost of living has definitely inflated, and like I said, I'm gonna show you guys what our apartment looks like at the end, because there are things I like about it, but there's also things that are really crappy. So I'm going to be totally honest with you guys, and I will show you that at the end of this video. So the last thing that I really like about living here in Boston is that public transportation is super accessible. So we, like I said, live in Allston, and there's the Green Line, which is like the T that we take. So we'll take that a lot if we want to kind of go to like the center of Boston, like Back Bay, Prudential Center, kind of where like the real lively stuff is, like nice restaurants, good shops, all that. We're like a 5-minute walk from our apartment to the T. And you know, you can jump on different lines, but it's just so nice because the line that's right by our house is the one that we like to use the most anyways, because it connects us right to where we want to go, which is like that main city restaurant shopping center. Public transportation is definitely a good option because they charge you a lot in parking fees if there are parking garages available. And I think to take the T, it's like maybe $2. And right now, actually, with Corona, our T stop is free because they don't want you checking in, like just due to like health and safety reasons. So you just hop right on and it's free right now, which is so nice. That positive that I just said about public transportation leads me into the last thing I don't like about Boston, which is parking. There is literally nowhere to park. And we got lucky because one of the requirements that like we needed when we were looking for apartments is I need a parking space, because even though my boyfriend bikes to work and he actually gave his car over to his mom, and now he shares my car with me, like I needed a parking spot. I didn't want to have to worry all the time about finding street parking where I live. Like that just sounded like such a hassle to me. Because I have to drive to work. One of our requirements that we told the realtor, like we need to have one parking spot. So it's nice because I don't have to pay extra for my parking spot. So it's just $1,900 a month flat. And it's my assigned spot. So if anyone takes it, you know, I could have them towed, but it's really nice because I have my own spot. But like I was saying, you know, there is just like nowhere to park in Boston. You know, most of the time if we're going to the city, we would either Uber before coronavirus, because my boyfriend still doesn't really feel like safe Ubering right now, or we take the T. The prices they charge for parking garages here are ridiculous. Like, I remember when I lived in Rhode Island and I would go to like the Providence Place Mall, you could be there for like 4 hours and the parking fee was $2. But here, if you park for like, it literally charges you by the half hour. Like if you park at the Prudential Center, I think for like an hour and a half, you're paying like at least $15, at least. But most of those places charge you so much. And finding street parking is nearly impossible wherever you go in Boston. And around us, like the Allston area, this is what's hard. Like you don't even get a visitor pass. Like if my family wants to visit, I'll give them my spot and I'll just chance it and park in somebody else's spot that I know is like always empty, because if they park on the street, it's not allowed. Like you need to have a parking pass. So that's something that's really hard, is like whenever I want my family or friends to visit, I'll make them feel comfortable and give them my spot, but then I have to move my car and just like hope it doesn't get towed. So yeah, parking does suck here, I'll admit that, but at least we have the public transportation whenever we don't want to drive. Oh my god, you guys, my cat fell asleep right next to me when I was filming. I just have to film him because he is just way too cute. Aw, yeah, stretch it out. Stretch it out. Okay, so I talked a little bit more than I thought I would for this video, so I actually think I'm gonna show the apartment in a separate video. So I'll do that for my next one then. I'll show you guys what a one-bedroom apartment in Boston looks like. This way I could spend more time on it and don't have to feel super rushed, because this video is already gonna be at least 15 minutes long. So I'm gonna do the apartment tour for my next one. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video of things I like and dislike right now about living in Boston. Like I said before, we renewed our lease recently, so we're gonna be living here until at least August of 2021. The main thing keeping us here is my boyfriend's job, because like I said, he has to bike to work to get to Harvard. Us living here is dependent on his job, because I'm fine with driving. Right now I'm only 4 miles away from my job, so I don't mind moving farther away out of Boston eventually, and I'll still be able to commute. It just depends on how long he's gonna be working at Harvard. I cannot picture living in the city for most of my life, like no way. Probably just a couple more years and then I'll gladly move out and go to a more suburban area, because that is just what I am used to. I'm glad that I have lived in the city though. It's just nice to be living somewhere like completely different and try it out, but yeah, I can't picture living here my whole life. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. I would love to know if you also live in the city, if you also live in Boston or another major city. Let me know what you guys think. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up if you like it. Subscribe to my channel. I make new videos every week. And until next time, I will see you guys very soon. Bye.
I don't really care about love. I don't really care about happy ever after. Something about you gives me hope.